Hey, hey, Facebook. So glad to see you here. Guess what? It's the afternoon, but I haven't forgotten about doing my Facebook Live daily challenge. Had a busy morning this morning, and I have had a couple of client calls, a couple of appointments. I've had a couple of calls with the insurance company. I've had an electrician come out, and I'm getting ready to sit down and do some work. And so I thought that in the meantime, before I really jump into some editing and doing a few things for my clients, that I would jump on here and get my Facebook Live for today underway. Now, I wanted to talk to you about something today that's a little more on the emotional side of podcasting. I think of podcasting as having three sides, and no one else thinks about it this way, but it's true. It's the emotional side, the strategic side, and the tactical side. And the tactical things are things like doing your editing, writing your show notes, creating your artwork, maybe even posting to social media. Those are the tactical things you're doing every single time you post a podcast. The strategic things is things like, what link do I post on my Facebook? Or how many posts do I need to put out to Facebook? Or what funnel do I need to drive people to? And how should I sell my products? And how should I pitch my services? And those are the strategic things. What direction do you want your podcast to go? And what are you doing to get to that direction? And I help people with all of those things on a daily and weekly and even hourly basis, because that's what I do with my clients. But one of the things that that we all neglect, and I end up having to sort of jump in and fill that hole sometimes, is because there is an emotional side to podcasting. And I have talked to several podcasters lately that are clients, and they are, I would say, emotionally empty. They are emotionally drained. They are emotionally spent. And they have nothing left to give. And it's a sad state that we get to with podcasting. And I think part of what contributes to that is that we are kind of podcasting in a vacuum. You normally on a normal basis, now I'm sitting here creating this in front of Facebook Live, and I can look down at my screen and see, oh, there's, Marian, or there's whoever else, and they're saying hi, and they're, commenting, and we have these great discussions, which is why I am starting to love these aspects of being on Facebook Live. But the other part that real podcasters that are creating and recording their shows alone in their office, in their basement, on their couch, wherever they're recording from, and they're making the show, and they don't have that feedback, and then they post it to their feed and they send it out into the world, and that feedback loop never closes in many ways. It gets to a point where many podcasters ask themselves, is anyone listening to my show? And I think there was an article that was even posted in one of the Facebook groups the other day, and they were like, you all realize that there are more people producing podcasts than actually listening to podcasts, don't you? And it was satire, and it was being, written to be funny. But I think we've all thought that at some point in time. And the other emotional aspect that we all as podcasters face is this thing called imposter syndrome. We are doubting ourselves from the minute we turn on the mic and actually go back and listen to ourselves, and we say, oh my God, I sound awful. Or with me, it's, oh my gosh, I'm so stinking Southern. How can I fix this? And I can't sometimes, it's just who I am. But we all deal with the imposter syndrome. It's every day. It's every episode many times. It's who am I? Oh, there's more people that are already doing this that are better than I am. My niche is already saturated. There's no room for me. I couldn't do this, or somebody else was able to do it and be successful, but I can't. So between the imposter syndrome and then having no feedback loop with a podcast, many times it is very, very lonely. And when it's like that, you don't have the good feedback to kind of talk yourself and psych yourself out of your emotional funk that you're in. And I've seen people get to that point and they give up and they walk away from their podcast. Now, some of them will say, that's it. That was season 1. We're going to start off all over when I have something to give. And they'll suddenly make their normal podcast a seasonal podcast. And that works for some people. Many people go away and never come back. And that's very sad to me, because you had an audience there. And some people are just, it's like you get 1,000 downloads a month and you think, well, why aren't people listening to my show? And it's like 1,000 downloads a month is more than the average person is getting that's podcasting. And whenever you think about it, if you showed up to an event once a month and there were 1,000 people there to listen to you speak, would it be worthwhile in going? And it absolutely would. So whatever happens with the numbers, we always compare ourselves to other people. And so it makes it, it makes us fight this constant emotional battle until you get to the point of having your show monetized, or until you get to the point of having, sort of your podcast audience in the palm of your hand by being in a Facebook group or something like that. Many times you just can't get past the emotional hurdles of podcasting, and they are there and no one tells you about them. Everyone says, just take action, and here's all the tools to take action. And it's not a matter of not knowing the tactics. It's not a matter of not knowing the strategy. It's that emotional hurdle that you can't get over. And it got me to thinking the other day, because I was having this conversation with one of my clients, and she's to the point where she's like, I either got to pivot or I got to do something. And it's a shame. It is a crying shame that she's gotten to this point. But what's happened is she's not built in mechanisms within her show for her to actually get that feedback from people. And I hate to say this, but I'm going to. If you want people to contact you, you have to say, I would love to hear from you. If you want people to join your Facebook group, you have to say, please come and join us in our Facebook group. You have to put all these things out there. If you want to interact with people and you want to get in front of your audience, you've got to make yourself available to it. If you don't, it's no wonder people are listening to your podcast while they're multitasking. They're driving, they're doing these other things. And if you don't have a very specific reason why people would get in touch with you, or by making yourself available to them, for them to reach out to you with whatever their problem is that they want you to help them solve, then you're not going to be hearing from people. And even when you do hear from people, you need to make a big deal about it. You need to tell your podcast listeners. I was so excited. I got an email from Mike Q, who listens from Detroit, and he said, blah, blah, blah. They need to know, and they need to hear you reinforce that, hey, meaningful contact with me is something I want, and I'm encouraging, and I'm promoting. And when you do that, you do begin to get more of it. But I will also tell you this. And this is one of the things I've learned from doing these Facebook Lives. And y'all know I don't look like getting on video every day, and I don't like myself on video. And I have all these internal, self-confidence crises every single time I go to get on the Facebook Live. But one thing I love, and one thing that keeps me coming back, is that sometimes we're having some really good discussions here, and people are chiming in and they're saying, oh, by the way, this happened to me, and oh, by the way, have you thought about that? And I love having those discussions, and that's immediate. That's very good gratification. Not just that, but later on in the afternoon, I might have somebody comment on a video I did in the morning, and I'm like, yay, I'm so glad they're listening and they're commenting. I love that. I love having the discussions. You don't always have to agree with me. We just want to have the discussion, and we want to think about different things in different ways, because that's what kind of helps light the creative fire in all of us. But it's sad to me that so many podcasters get to the point where they're giving up because they're not getting that feedback. So my question is always, like, how can I help solve this problem? And I don't know about you guys, and I used to, whenever podcasts first started out, before I started working from home, I had a 2-hour drive to my job every day. It was 2 hours to get there and then 2 hours to get home. And I know now I look at that and say, what the heck was I thinking? But I did it. And that's where I became a complete super consumer of podcasts. So I was listening to 4 hours of podcasts a day, learning everything I could. My brain would just be soaking it in all the way to work, all the way from work. I never got sleepy when I was listening to podcasts. It was an awesome way to wake up my mind and keep myself challenged. But here's the thing. Not once did I ever leave those podcasters a rating and review on iTunes. Not once did I ever go and find their contact page on their website and say, oh, by the way, so-and-so, your content today hit home for me. And I was listening to tons of shows, 4 hours of podcasts a day. And that was back before there were lots of podcasts to choose from. That was super consumption of a lot of podcasts. So I felt like I knew those people. And I never reached out and said word one. And here they were providing me all this free content. They were providing me company as I drove 2 hours each way. And it's, hey, Loretta, Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, so it's one of those things that I'm guilty. I am as guilty as anyone of consuming, loving it, loving the content they're putting out. So thankful for the content. And then I get where I'm going and I turn off my phone and I go on and have my great day. And then later on, I'll go back and use the tactics they gave me, use the tools that they gave me, and I never once reach out to them. And I think that part of what we can do as podcasters is sort of turn the tide. And we can challenge ourselves to reach out to one podcast each week that you listen to and you're a fan of, and just send them a heartfelt email. Take 10 minutes out of your day and send them a heartfelt email that says what they've done for you and how it's impacted your life and how it's changed your life. Because if you don't do that, you know what's going to happen? Eventually, you're going to go to your phone and you're going to want to download their latest episode. And there's not going to be a latest episode there. And then you'll go another week and you'll be like, where the heck are they? Did they get sick or what's going on? And all of a sudden you'll find out that they're not doing their podcast, and months will go by and their podcast is gone. And what could have made the difference is if they knew that they made a difference to you. So I don't know if you'll join me in a challenge, but I'd like to challenge myself and all of those of you that are listening and those of you that are going to come in contact with this video to just one podcast a week reach out to and thank them. You know, maybe make it your, whatever gratitude day. If you have a practice of gratitude, send out a podcast or an email, send them a review on iTunes that they're going to love. And I'm not huge on iTunes reviews as far as, trying to stack the algorithms in your favor, because it doesn't work like that anymore. But for someone to see genuine feedback and a note right there for everyone to see that says, oh my gosh, this podcast is awesome. Even if you go to their Facebook page for their podcast and say, I've been listening to your show for however long now, and every time I need this or that or the other, you're right there providing it. And I can't thank you enough for all the work that you do on the podcast, because you hear 30 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever, but you're a podcaster. So there's another 8 or 10 hours that you haven't even seen go into the show just to get it to the point where, it's listenable, So, hey, Amy, good to see you too, girl. You know what? One of these days we're going to have a taco on here on Facebook Live together, and I'm going to bring you on and we're just going to eat our tacos, and I'm going to love it because I can eat tacos like you can. So love it. Anyway, good to see you. And so, but do you know what I'm saying? I mean, do you understand that the receiving encouragement in some ways is what motivates you as a podcaster, but also we have to be the ones to turn around and give that out. And so I'm going to put out reminders once a week. I'm going to put out reminders on a certain day every week that we need to make this our gratitude day and reach out to a podcaster. They will love it if you do that. And not just that, but they will be encouraged to continue to provide better and better content, because you know how it is. You know how it is when you get off those interviews with people that you're doing, you're just like, oh, it's like a runner's high. I know it's been a while since I've had a runner's high, but I know what they are. And I remember them from when my knees would let me run. And you get off that interview and you are jazzed and you are stoked, and you put that interview out in the world, and you might even share it with that person that was the guest, and they don't share it. And then you get a little more deflated as every day goes by and nobody says how great the show was. It's that way. I know it's that way. It's that way for me. It's that way for you. So let's collectively do something about it because we have the power. We have the power to make each other's day. We have the power to sort of collectively express ourselves. I mean, we're so good at having these conversations with our communities. We're so good at calling out to the people that sort of are our tribe. But you know what? There's those people on the fringes that are never going to speak up and say, I'm questioning everything I'm doing. They might say it to me, and they might call me and say, Christy, what the heck is going on? When is this thing going to feel easier? When is this thing going to feel like it's not sucking the very soul out of me? And the point is to get it to that faster, right? You don't want to be feeling that way every time. You want to get out of, your podcast, all the things that you're putting into it, and just sort of it be a very symbiotic thing where you're feeding it and it's feeding you, and you know that you're making a difference in the world. But in order to know you make a difference in the world, you got to have people tell you, and you've got to tell people too. So that's my plea today is let's sort of give each other grace with the emotional side of podcasting. It's, if you missed the beginning, I was talking about how there's 3 parts of podcasting. One is the emotional, one is the strategic, and one is the tactical. And the emotional is what nobody's talking about, but it's there. and the smartest people in the world that know all the tech and all the strategy and everything else are still dealing with the emotional part and the imposter syndrome. And let me just say, I deal with it. I deal with it every time before I get on Facebook Live. I deal with it every time before I do a podcast episode. I deal with it every time I have a call with some important person that I feel like is more intelligent than I am, or has more money than I do, or is, got a better network than I do, and they just know more in the world. And I have that, and everyone does. So recognizing that, your favorite podcaster is probably facing some imposter syndrome, unless they're having live events where people are like, woo, woo, they're so-and-so, and they're clapping all the time and they're getting all that verbal and affirmation. It's probably not happening. They're probably sitting in their office or in their bedroom while their kids and their wife or their husband is, trying to deal with dinner and, dealing with homework and all these other things. And they're in trying to create content for you. And they really don't know if they're ever going to get anyone turning around and saying thank you. So let's just make it a practice, and let's just say every week, is it too much to say spend 10 minutes to reach out to that one podcast that made a difference for you this week? I'm going to do it. I've got a few on my list, and luckily a lot of mine that I listen to are also, they're people I would choose to listen to, but some of mine are actually my clients. And so I need to let them know how good their shows are, because they send them to me week after week. And I just, we just edit them, we put them up, we publish them for them, we do their social media, we do all that, and we do it, but we don't ever turn around and say, I just want to tell you that's amazing. So you know what? When I hear amazing things when I'm editing, you know what I need to do? I need to get my butt on my Facebook page and say, I just heard the most amazing quote when I was editing so-and-so's podcast, blah, blah, blah. This show is going to be amazing, and I need to help promote them. So it's one of those things we can do for each other. We can be conscious of it, and we can be sort of the solution for each other. So I would just encourage you, join me. Let's just have the Facebook Live challenge turn into a Facebook podcast gratitude challenge, because once a week, that's all I ask. Once a week, can you name a podcast that you will reach out to and let them know the impact they've had on your life? It may be what keeps that podcast going. It may be what renews and revives that podcaster who is spent. Maybe they're emotionally spent. I always get the ones that say I'm emotionally and financially spent, which I understand. They've been paying, a lot of money to have services for the podcast, and they need something out of it. So we'll talk about all those other things and ways to get something out of it later, and the tactical things and the strategic things. But I just wanted to cover the emotional things today, because it's been in conversations I've been having with people. You get to the end of the year and you reflect back and you look on 2017, and maybe you didn't get all the goals that you wanted. Maybe you think, well, is it even worth me, gearing up again for a new resolution or a new goal for 2018? And I guarantee you it is. And sometimes it might take a year or more for your podcast to really just hit its stride and give you back everything that ticks all the goals on your list. But if you give it that time and you keep putting it out there, think about the audience that you've garnered with your podcast, whatever your niche is. Think about that. And then think about them gathering in a room and you just not showing up. And that's what happens whenever you basically walk away from your podcast. Those people are still there. They're waiting for you. They want to hear from you. And you just basically, kind of showed them the hand and walked away. And you have a lot of valid reasons for doing that. And there are times when it should happen, but not because of imposter syndrome, and not because of discouragement, and not because you're down and defeated. So join me in helping other podcasters feel appreciated for the impact they're having on your lives, because if you put it out there, guarantee you the universe will bring it back to you. So thank you guys for joining me. Thanks for the good conversations. Thank you for agreeing with me, or if you disagree with me and you're like, Christy, you should never say anything to anyone else. I don't know who would ever do that. You're probably not on my friends list if you feel that way anyway. So if you feel that way, we can have the discussion and that sort of thing. But at the same time, you know how good it feels when you finally hear somebody say, this podcast made my day. And I want yours to be the one that does that. So in order for that to happen, you got to keep doing it. So for those of you that join me for my late afternoon podcast, my late afternoon Facebook, like it's a podcast, late afternoon Facebook Live, thank you for coming. And, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know, because there's so much. And you guys, thank you for the love and the likes and the hearts. Those things are awesome when you see them. See that? The gratitude. I appreciate that. So let me know how I can help you, if there's anything I can help you with. And if you find that you need some encouragement and support from your podcast audience, you might want to build in a way for them to sort of, I'm not saying fish for compliments, But you might want to tell them if there's anything that this show has, helped you with. If you can let me know so I can give you more of that, and that sort of thing. Just let people know you're available. Once you make yourself available, a whole lot can happen. So, all right, you guys, thanks for showing up. And it's almost the end of the week, and it's, you know what? What is it, 11 days till Christmas? I've not got one gift done yet. No cards, no gifts. Just trying to keep myself alive here. Got a lot to do. So anyway, hope you got yours done. Hope you got your list all covered. And if not, oh well. Tomorrow's another day. The weekend's another weekend. So have a good one, you guys. See you tomorrow. Thanks for stopping by.